Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's practically hardwired into our collective brains, the American dream. But look, we're not going to be sifting through boring political speeches or dusty historical archives. Instead, we're looking at how pop culture, specifically comics, cartoons, and graphic novels, acts as a dynamic living mirror for this whole idea. From men in capes to animated families, these brightly colored mediums have become the battleground where we celebrate our ideals, confront our failures, and hash out exactly what we aspire to be. It's a truly fascinating journey, so let's get right into it. It's kind of the ultimate foundational question, isn't it? What actually is the American dream? Well, for nearly a century, the answer hasn't just been handed down to us by academics. It's been brilliantly illustrated for us on the pages of our favorite entertainment. The stories we consume and the characters we idolize, they don't just entertain us, they define us. They help us make sense of the world and give us a really accessible language to talk about our biggest societal hopes. And honestly, there is no better place to start than right here. Faster than a speeding bullet, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. You know the line. That classic quote from the 1952 Superman television show perfectly launches us into our first major theme. Superman isn't just some guy who can bench press a car. His very existence is a commentary on the American experience itself. Section 1, Superheroes and Foundational Ideals, the Immigrant and the Patriot. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand the roots of the American dream in pop culture, we have to look back at the golden age of comic books. These early heroes weren't just action stars. They were the absolute earliest embodiments of American ideals, stepping off the page at a time when the world was in desperate need of hope.
It is so fascinating to contrast two massive titans of the genre side by side. First, you've got the immigrant's dream. Think about Superman, debuting back in 1938, created by two Jewish kids from Cleveland, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. He's literally an alien, a refugee from a dying planet sent away just to find a better life. He is the ultimate stranger in a strange land who becomes the ultimate American. Then, look at the Patriot's dream. Enter Captain America in 1941. This is the ultimate bootstrap narrative. Steve Rogers goes from a frail, sickly weakling to a hyper-physical hero through science and just sheer determination. He was created right on the eve of World War II as the physical embodiment of a nation's ambition and its resistance to fascism.
But, as a nation changes, its symbols change too. Over the decades, Superman evolved from a Depression-era defender of the regular guy into a symbol of 1950s suburban values. But fast forward to the 2006 movie, Superman Returns. In it, he's described as standing for truth, justice, all that stuff. Do you catch what's missing there? Yeah, the iconic phrase, the American way, was totally dropped. This shift acts as a sort of cultural litmus test, reflecting a dwindling public faith, or maybe just shifting societal values, proving that the dream constantly needs to be redefined for new eras. Captain America went through a huge evolution as well, transforming from a wartime propaganda tool into the literal conscience of the nation. The crucial point is right here in this quote from the Death of Captain America comic. True patriotism, as the story frames it, isn't about blind allegiance. It wasn't about blindly supporting your government. It was about knowing what your country could be and holding it accountable when it failed. That is a total game changer. It reframes the American dream from unquestioning loyalty to a standard of continuous improvement and moral accountability. Which brings us to a much more modern and highly controversial era for the character. Recently, writers like Ta-Nehisi Coates have used Captain America to critically meditate on whether the dream can even endure in such a dangerous age. And it gets wilder. The 2017 Secret Empire storyline completely shocked readers by revealing Captain America as a secret agent of Hydra, a fascist organization. This twist was written specifically to mirror the paranoia and institutional suspicion of the Watergate era. The backlash to this was absolutely immense, with the writer even receiving death threats. But the sheer scale of that controversy perfectly illustrates just how fiercely Americans defend their cultural symbols. They defend them because they see their own values reflected right back at them. Section 2, Broadening with Alternative Voices. Beyond the capes, let's shift our focus for a moment here. Because as one reader noted in our sources, there are as many American dreams as there are Americans. To really capture the whole picture, we have to look beyond the capes and cowls and recognize how graphic novels have vastly broadened this cultural conversation. These alternative voices are just a fantastic showcase of that. Take Xing Yin Kor's The American Dream, and yes, that comes with a heavy question mark. It beautifully weaves between the generational Route 66 road trip and the newly arrived immigrant experience. Then there's Malaka Gharib's I Was There American Dream, which focuses all on navigating a mixed-race identity and finding your own unique path between different family traditions. And then we have Daniel Close's Ghost World. Now, this one screams American Dream, but not because of financial success. It's all about finding a place in a confusing world through tolerance and kindness. These indie creators are showing us that the dream isn't just about wealth, it's deeply about belonging.
Let's see how this builds in another medium entirely, animation. Looking at this timeline, you can see that cartoons have always been busy telling the story of the dream. Back in the 1930s, Depression-era animations like Steamboat Willie offered pure, unadulterated hope. Jump to the 1990s, and films like Cats Don't Dance functioned as these great parables about ethnic diversity and being accepted for exactly who you are. And from 1999 to the present, well, The Simpsons has provided this incredible satirical affection for the dream. Homer Simpson is a cautionary tale for sure, but beneath all the satire is a comforting belief that even a deeply imperfect family can find happiness.
Section 3, The American Nightmare, The Dark Side of Ambition. Now, this explainer wouldn't really be complete if we only looked at the uplifting side of the coin. The dream is absolutely a double-edged sword. As we transition from the Golden Age heroes and wholesome cartoons into modern anti-heroes, we uncover a much darker reflection of our societal ambitions. Scholar Paul A. Cantor captures this perfectly. He notes, the many conmen, gangsters, and drug lords portrayed in popular culture are examples of the dark side of the American dream. I mean, we are absolutely fascinated by characters like Walter White, Tony Soprano, or Jay Gatsby. But why? Because the American nightmare is simply the American dream corrupted. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that corruption happens. Think about it. These anti-heroes possess single-minded intensity. They practice extreme entrepreneurship. They take self-made ambition to its absolute logical extremes. The terrifying truth is that the exact same drive, the very same ambition that builds a heroic nation, can also create a complete villain. The pursuit of success, when it gets totally untethered from morality, inevitably leads to the destruction of the self and everyone around them. It's just two sides of the exact same coin. Section 4, Reinventing the Dream Today, A Quilt of Contradictions. So where does that actually leave us today? Well, polls currently show that a majority of Americans feel the dream is out of reach, maybe even in a state of crisis. But the pop culture we consume proves that we definitely aren't giving up. Rather, we are actively reinventing the dream to be more inclusive, more questioning, and more honest than ever before. It's a giant quilt of contradictions. Let's anchor the massive thematic shift we've explored today with this timeline. We started in 1938 with the immigrant's dream of Superman, moving right into the 1941 patriotic resistance against fascism with Captain America. By the 1970s, pop culture heavily reflected the deep suspicion and cynicism of the Watergate era. And today, we find ourselves in the modern era, an era characterized by diversity, doubt, and ultimately reinvention. The heroes are no longer just symbols of unwavering blind faith. They grapple with the exact same disillusionment we do. And that reinvention has a face, or rather, a lot of faces. The new dream is represented by incredible characters like Black Panther, Ms. Marvel, Miles Morales, and a massive, wonderful wave of indigenous graphic novels and immigrant memoirs. These characters and creators are doing something so incredibly vital. They aren't just diversifying the comic book medium. They're successfully diversifying and expanding the very definition of the American dream itself. They prove that the freedom to have multiple ideals coexist is at the very heart of the culture. At the end of the day, the American dream isn't a final destination. It's an ongoing, deeply complicated conversation. And pop culture is the vivid, colorful language we use to have that conversation. So I want to leave you with this final thought and turn the whole thing over to you. What pop culture story, whether it's a comic, a cartoon, or a graphic novel, best represents the American dream to you? Really think about it, because the stories you choose say just as much about you as they do about the world around us. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.